Hey guys, Pretzelman945 here. Welcome back to another video, and welcome back to my one of my favorite kinds of videos to record that I never seem to figure out a good timing for as to when I record them. This is my seasonal anime video going over everything I watched in the um spring season of 2026. Um, Similar to the winter season, this season was very stacked. Um, uh, the the winter video was 43 minutes long. So I'm very curious how long this video is going to be. Um, I don't know. It might be a tad shorter because of the fact that um I think this is the first time that this has happened in my time watching anime seasonally. There is not any continuing animes from winter into this season. So that definitely will make the video a bit shorter. But also I am not going to talk about the dropped animes because, to be honest, like, there are several of these that I don't remember anything about them. Um, and then the other ones, I mean, like, if I dropped it, it's because I became bored or I wasn't liking it. Like, I don't feel like there's that much to talk about with this. Uh, because like if I dropped it, then it just was not interesting to me. So I'm not doing it this time. I don't know if I'm going to continue to do it for these videos. I guess we'll just kind of uh see with future installments. But going over the stuff that I actually did watch, um, I, the document this time was categorized by days of the week. So I think the days of the week are not in order, by the way. So, um, we're just going through every one for a particular day. So first up is Agent of the Four Seasons. Now, this one is one that is uh, a bit disappointing. I can't even lie. Like, I think it's still a decent show, but definitely disappointing. Um, so I mean, what studio produced this? And I will say the colors are absolutely beautiful. There is a lot of gorgeous scenes in this show. Wit Studio absolutely cooked in the animation department, but they always do that. That's kind of expected. Now, the reason that I had quite high expectations of this show is that I I found out that this show uh has the same writer, the same source material creator as Violet Evergarden, which is one of my favorite animes, as I've talked about many times on this channel. Um and that's why this one seems a bit disappointing. Um Because compared to Violet, um, this one to me feels a bit like Violet's character arc has a pretty simple plot laid out, whereas this one, the concept of it, like there being agents of all the different seasons, um, and like the fact that they replace each other when one agent dies and stuff like that. Like that's an idea that is really interesting and I feel like almost requires a lot, a good amount of pretty intricate world building to be explored with it to make it feel like a concept that wasn't wasted. Um, but unfortunately, I think like the what I think is the case with this show is that like the characters and the ideas for the characters and their entire arc were written out before much of a plot was conceived. And as a result, what that creates with this show is a thing where um there are some decent character flashbacks, but the problem is that they are repeated several times. Many of the same ones are they have like repeated elements that come up again, and it just feels like the entire concept of this, which could have been really cool and it was a really cool idea, was just sort of wasted. Had to take get some water there. Um, and that time I was responding to a Discord message. Okay, let us continue. Um, so talked about Agents of the Four Seasons. Next up, Kusunoki's Garden of the Gods. Uh, this one's pretty simple. It's very simple, fun, Yashike slice of life about a guy that has a lot of spiritual power, moves into a house, clears out all the bad spirits, a bunch of friendly gods come and he hangs out with them. Um, it's a fun show. I like it. Pretty simple. Uh, it's not much else to say on that one. Next up, one of my favorite new animes from this season was Nippon Sangoku. Uh, I forget what the full subtitle was, like the Three Nations of the Crimson Sun or something like that. Nippon Sangoku is what I'm going to keep calling it for simplicity's sake. Um, this one is really interesting. It's like set in futuristic Japan, but not the kind of futuristic setting you might expect. It is sort of an idea of like, what if um there is like some of the concepts of modern technology like cars and guns and stuff, but like um civilization sort of became more primitive in the sense that like we are now back to a system of nations which feels very much like something that would have happened during the um Sengoku Jidai in real Japanese history. Um, where there's like three different countries in this show uh, that like are each they're all vying for control and it's about like one guy who is from very average background who makes a name for himself, which I love characters like that. um uh and like it gives me similar vibes to Legend of the Galactic Heroes in a way, except it's not nearly as sci-fi, not sci-fi at all really, but like gives similar vibes in terms of like the way that the war strategy is carried out, and I really like that. Also, um studio I've never heard of before, but the animation and just overall visuals and production values were so pleasing to look at. Like the art style and the colors are so vibrant. It is beautiful. Also, Kevin Penkin did the music for this show, um, which automatically means that is awesome music. So there was also that as a bonus. I really, really liked this show. Um, I'm curious to see where it ends. I don't think it's a continuing show, but could also just like okay, it's gonna be 12 episodes. Um well in that case I really hope that there's a season two of this because this show was excellent. Um next up is the beginning after the end season two. Um So I didn't hate this show last year nearly as much as everyone else seemed to hate it. Um I thought it was a fun um I thought it was just like a fun fantasy show. Uh with some things that I sort of liked character wise better than Mushoku Tensei, which is like the sort of obvious comparison with this show. I do feel like the animation improved in this season, even though that wasn't really a complaint of mine. Uh, it from the first season, I feel like the animation was definitely better here. Like the action and fights, I thought had a noticeable improvement. So there was that, which was fun. Um, most of this was like going through a dungeon and there wasn't like a whole ton of plot progression. Like that element feels a bit less compared to the first season, but I mean overall it was kind of the same consistent level of enjoyment for me. Next up is Aaron the Southpaw. This one is really interesting. I just watched the most recent episode. When I'm filming this, I don't think any of the shows are finished yet because beginning after the end, season two is has like a gap week. The final episode is going to be next week, so um, so just that for context. This show has anyway. Aaron the Southpaw has been an interesting show. Um this is one of those ones that I think is harder to judge based on a week to week basis. Um, it's this interesting like uh counterpoint between Aaron, uh, who is like this girl with white hair who stands out, has a unique like style to the art that she creates and draws, and he eventually kind of like even though she was sort of the one that didn't have grand ambitions, like he's the one that becomes a famous artist, so to speak, and it's counteracted by Koichi, this guy who has grand ambitions, but ultimately um gets sort of those ambitions get drowned by the grueling reality of working in the art industry or in a related field that uses his art in the industry. Um and I've thought about for a while like why I sort of felt a little conflicted about this show. I think it comes down to two main reasons. Part of it is the fact that I don't really think like I feel like it should have been a more even mix of Koichi and Aaron, but as is, it sort of feels like too much of a heavy focus on Koichi and his character arc, which I guess the main issue with that is that like it doesn't really do as good of a job as it potentially could. Um, uh, considering they're like the two central characters of this show. Um, and also like another reason that like I personally can't score this show as highly as some other ones is just because like Koichi's struggles have a lot of depth to them, but it's hard to watch. Like, it is very brutal reality, like the kind of work and the struggles that he goes through, but like it is hard to watch. And so when something like that is harder to watch, like I'm gonna be honest, it is something that kind of affects my viewing experience, and therefore I tend to score a little bit lower. Um, Speaking of things I have mixed opinions about, ReZero season 4. Um, Something to me for most of season 4 has really felt off. I couldn't I couldn't figure out what I didn't really like about this season until I watched the most recent episode that came out today. Um, now ReZero season 4 is a show that is continuing into next season, even though it's only 19 episodes. It is still there's still going to be a short recorded season, which I am excited about. Um, because overall, I do still think this season is really good. I think that um, it has probably been maybe the best for side characters because like season 2 had introduced a lot of side characters and developed them all really well, but I think that this did an even better job of developing already established side characters. Like um Julius got a fantastic episode. There was the thing about like Anastasia is not actually in her body, so there is this other character named Echidna who is completely different from the one in season 2, mind you. That took me, it caught me really off guard. I had to adjust to that. But when I had adjusted to that, like, you know, that her as an individual character in the body of Anastasia and like the way that their relationship worked was really interesting. Um uh Shawa was kind of an annoying shit. I'm going to be honest. That is much more of a is a very minor nitpick, but I do think it is something that needs to be pointed out. Like this, I don't know something about the way that she talked. Like um, I don't know what it is, but like when I'm watching subbed anime, but like characters that talk in Japanese, like um, how do you even replicate it? Um, Characters that talk like her and say, um, "Hey, and onegaishimasu," like really emphasize the at the end of like everything they say. It just it feels ridiculously excessive, and I don't know, something that is always just like grating on my ears in a character that talks like that in the Japanese dub. Uh I don't know what to say. It's just like always grates on my ears. When characters talk like that. So I found Shala kind of annoying. But that's a very minor nitpick. Um Emilia and Beatrice both had great moments. Meili was like I'd honestly kind of forgotten who Meili even was before season 4, since I think this is like her first reappearance since season 1. And even then, she wasn't that significant compared to her sister in season 1, but she has a lot of great development, a lot of um, like a really good episode where like Subaru reads her sort of Book of the Dead after she dies, which I don't know if she's actually dead or not. I really don't know if who's dead and who's not at this point in the season. It's kind of confusing. Um, I think every character has honestly had great moments other than Subaru. And my and the direction that Subaru's character is taken in season 4 is easily my biggest issue with this season as a whole. Because, like, yeah, sure, Subaru or a monster moment, haha, funny, funny. Uh, Great memes came out of that for sure. But I feel like the entire, like, bit with Subaru losing his memories was just not good because it feels like it completely undoes everything good about his development from season two. And it feels like it was only done to make him be further suffer bait. Um, and I don't, I don't keep up with fandoms in general much. I don't really know, like, what the general consensus on this is, like whether it's better than the light novel and it's sort of an adaptation issue. But I really did not like Subaru's arc so far in season four. He has his like he's like back to his normal self now, which is good. So I'm hoping that like the rest of the season can be an improvement, but I really that's been my main issue with ReZero season four is I really have not liked the way that Subaru's character went. Um okay. Next up, probably my biggest surprise of the season, I wanna say. Um just in terms of like we everyone that watched even an episode of Petals of Reincarnation expected it to be nothing but a meme because oh Adolf Hitler's a lolly boy in it. Um Not a lolly girl, by the way. Uh Adolf Hitler's character is a little boy, not a girl. It's it's hilarious to me like how many people got that wrong in the lead up to this show. Uh Adolf Hitler's character was not a little lolly girl, was a little lolly boy. Um, but that was obviously the main reason that this show had garnered so much attention is because of that fact. Um, and this is why I say it's my biggest surprise of the season because this show was actually really good. And I kind of feel like initially I mean, I didn't like automatically assume it would be flop. Like, I was very curious to see what it would be like and if it would be any good. And to my great surprise, it was actually really good. Um, I heard that the power system was similar to Fate, which kind of had me interested because um, I love Fate. I'm a huge Fate fan. Um, and I guess there are some similarities, but also like the power system in this show is also quite different. Like the idea of returners is quite different uh from servants in Fate. Because in Fate it's like they summon historical figures to modern day, whereas in Petals of Reincarnation it's like they have the flowers and they can kind of possess these abilities of these historical figures. And let me tell you, the amount of different historical figures in this show is actually ridiculous. I am a historian. I'm majoring in history in college right now, and there were a lot of these that I had never heard of before. Like whoever the creator of this is, they are a massive history nerd, and this is very evident uh, with all the abilities that the different returners have. Um, like for example, uh, Schrodinger is a cat character in this, and I don't remember what the whole Schrodinger's law principle thing is, but it's like perfectly in line with the idea. His ability is perfectly in line with the idea behind that. It's hilarious, and there are so many more examples like that. And um, the pacing has also just been like like much faster than I expected, but yet it doesn't feel rushed either, which I like. But it's been a lot faster than I expected, and as a result, the sort of scale of the plot has kind of like gotten bigger and bigger at an insane rate. And it's just changed the nature of the story so much. It's just been fascinating to watch. I have really enjoyed this show. Next up is another one by Studio Kai, which is a studio which, in my opinion, is having a very, very promising rise to stardom. Um, uh, this one is like much like 95% CG, but the CG actually looks pretty good to me. Um, the story for this is like really interesting. It's already set in the future, and like Tetsuo, the main character, uh pilots this mech to get rid of kaiju, and then um he launches off into space as like the um as everyone escapes Earth, but then the Earth is destroyed by kai but then the ship with the people is destroyed by kaiju, and his robot Yukio sacrifices himself in the first episode. That gave insanely similar vibes to Gurren Lagann and Communist sacrificing himself. And so that kind of immediately hooked me. And even though Yukio comes back, um, like it doesn't feel that moment doesn't feel like it's undone, I guess. I think I think like uh I think that Yukio plays sort of a different role when he is like prepared and comes back again. Um, but like Yukio ends up back on Earth. Everything is frozen over, uh, and there's like a group of people that he makes friends with. Um, this whole thing about like struggling to communicate is pretty basic, but I don't mind it necessarily. I've seen like more complex and worse executed character arcs before. Um, so what else is there? So I mean, I gotta be honest. If there's anything that is a letdown about this show, it is probably the main villain. He seemed like he had an interesting setup with this whole thing about like how he can control kaiju, and how it's revealed that he and his like kid cronies were the ones that destroyed the ship originally in episode one. Um, and Tetsuo just defeated the villain in the most recent episode, but there's still like this talking kaiju thing which caused the whole ice over to begin with. So I'm curious to see what's gonna happen with that. But like I don't know, the villain kind of was like built up to be this crazy monstrous guy who controlled this very powerful kaiju, and then his backstory and motivations were just because he was like jealous that he could never be the savior figure for people. And I don't know, that just felt a bit like basic for everything that he had been set up to be. Um, so I mean, I don't I like this show. I don't know if I would say I think it's great. I'm gonna kind of have to ponder it a bit more, I think. Um, Next up is Tensura season 4. This is another one that is continuing into next season, which I'm very happy about. Although Tensura season 4 is doing like the weirdest thing I have ever seen a new season of anime do, in that it is 5 cores. And I really like still I am just baffled at like the decision making. Like I'm not complaining about it. I'm just like so confused as to why this season is 5 cores instead of like a fifth season and potentially even a season 6. Like I just really wonder why the decision to split it up like this and make it all season 4. But I'm also not complaining because I love Tensura. I've been very excited for Tensura season 4, and so far it has been great. It has honestly continued with everything that I really liked about um season 3. In terms of like there was more of the politicking, Rimuru and his friends playing around in the new dungeon was kind of fun. Um, but all the while there was like gradual build up about the threat of Maribel Rotso and her greed ability, all of which uh um Rimuru just crushed immediately. Although I'm curious to know what's gonna happen with the whole dragon thing now that like her greed power is supposedly dispersed. Uh Also, Yuki was obviously the real threat the entire time. I feel like that was pretty obvious, but it was still really cool and it was interesting to get a first taste of their eventual confrontation when Yuki and Rimuru fought this time, because there's no way that was even close to all of Yuki's power. Uh, so I'm very excited to see what's going to happen when that full fight eventually happens, which I assume is going to be in the 60-ish episodes that season 4 is supposed to be. Um, Next up is Awajima Hyake, or 100 Scenes of Awajima. This was a really great drama show about this academy called Awajima. And it's about like the scenes that's in the title are like different snapshots and stories of girls that either go there, they had friendships there, they had some kind of story related to the school in some way. And I think that there is like two ways of watching this. You could have actually understood the entire way that everything was connected from the beginning, or you could kind of not and keep some things together like I did, but still be able to enjoy each of the stories individually. And I think that's the really great thing about the way that this show's storytelling works, is that like um, both approaches are equally valid to understanding and very much enjoying the show. Um, and all the character stories are all quite good. Um, Especially when a lot of them focus on like theater, drama, some of it like music, with singing and stuff like that. Which are all generally like topics and themes that I really like seeing in a anime explored, and I think this does a great job of it. Um, Drops of God is next up, and this is a case like several throughout the season, like including two we've already talked about, like Agents of the Four Seasons and Aaron the Southpaw, who which I think kind of are still enjoyable shows, but kind of a consistent theme with several shows this season is that like they they do what I like to call lose the plot. They kind of lost the plot in quotations because like this show I think has a great hook. It's like, um, okay, this famous wine critic died. His son, um, has to in order to receive his full will has to like find these wines called the 12 apostles, and he ends up and he turns out he adopted this other famous wine critic and they have to battle each other, wine critic versus a guy that knows nothing about it. Interesting idea. The problem is it doesn't really focus on that entirely. And when it does focus on them finding the apostles, it's great. It's actually really intriguing. But when it's not doing that, and when it's like focused on other stories about like how wine changes people's lives, like it's already kind of doing that when they search for the apostles, so why not make that all of it? Because like when it feels like it's either these separate character stories or focusing on the apostles game, it feels like separated. Like it feels like it doesn't know which one it wants to be at times, and I think it should have been either one or the other, and not really a weird mix of the two. Um, okay, next up is another one of my favorites this season, which is Akane Banashi. Um, and this show is about Rakugo. Now I know a little bit about what Rakugo is, only because I did a uh project on it for a Japanese class once. I think it was it was a little less than a year ago. Yeah, well, something like I don't know, 8 or 9 months ago, maybe, I think. Uh, but that's not really relevant. The only thing that's important is like I didn't know a tiny bit about what Rakugo actually was going into this show, but you don't really need to because this show explains it very well. And what I love about this show is the way that it sort of takes the idea of something like Rakugo, and it puts it in a sort of classic battle shonen story form with like rival characters and a mini tournament arc this season and like a sort of old mentor character to aspire to as a goal. And I think that like all these elements just work really well and mesh really nicely together. Um and like the way that the Rakugo stories are told and like the different approaches to it are just really interesting and consistently super fun to watch. Next up, another one I really enjoyed this season, Demons of the Shadow Realm. This has been on my radar for a while, so I was very excited to learn it was coming out this season. It is continuing into next season. Drops of God is as well. Um, I didn't mention that earlier, but I'm gonna continue enjoying that next season too. Um, hopefully my issues with it will be fixed. But anyway, Damon's is also continuing in next season, which I'm even more excited about because this show has been great. Um, Now this one I did have high expectations for, but thankfully it delivered. Because this is by Hiromu Arakawa, the creator of Fullmetal Alchemist, which is Brotherhood is my second favorite anime of all time, and like it's Full Alchemist is like top 10 fiction for me. Um, so I was very excited for this, and what I really like about this um show is that there are like I can feel that compared to Full Alchemist, I don't know I know that she did Silver Spoon, or Colic did, but I have not watched that. I don't know what else she has made. I know she did the character designs for Moonrise, but that doesn't really count. Um, I know that she has made Silver Spoon, but I only know the name. I don't really know what it's about. I haven't watched it. I don't know what else she has done, but so I'm like comparing this to Fullmetal Alchemist because it's the only other thing I know by her. And what it felt like with this show is um this considering like Fullmetal Alchemist is such a genius story because of all the way that every single plot element comes together and connect. What I feel is sort of refreshing about this story is the fact that it is being taken a lot lower. And as a result, there's just like generally more intrigue to it. Like there isn't like this complex world. Um at least not nearly as complex as Fullmetal Alchemist and Amastris and stuff like that. There isn't nearly as many like questions or complexities being posed about the world and the power system and stuff like that. And instead, like Damon's, there is some interesting lore that's being revealed about them, but they're more it's more on the basic side of power systems as far as things go. And it's interesting because um there's just kind of a loose goal of Yuru trying to find his parents and learning more things in the process. Um, and there is this interesting sort of clan row between the Taderas and the Kagemoris, uh, who all of which have great characters, I think. Um, but I really like how this show is sort of a refreshing break from in a way that it's a different nature from Alchemist in the way that it's not posing as many questions about a less complex world, and it's just taking its time. Uh, and I really like that. Um, Next up is Mao. This is another one that I kind of feel like is fitting the bill of a lost the plot to me because again, I feel like this show didn't really know whether it wanted to be more about the central mystery of and like idea of trying to cure the Oki's curse and like learning more about it, or helping other Shikigami and helping them solve their issues and stuff like that. Like I don't really know which one was the direction that they wanted to go here, and I can't. And unlike Drops of God, I can't really say that like one of them would have been better than the other necessarily because um both of them could have been interesting ideas, but just the problem is they don't mesh well together. Now, the stuff that comes out of both of these I do like, but just again, the conflicting idea about what it wants to be is what kind of holds it back. Um, Probably the most wild thing that I didn't expect to see is a Fist of the North Star reboot. Now, I've heard of Fist of the North Star. I know it's a very famous manga and inspired JoJo's and all that stuff. I've never watched the original anime myself, so I was quite interested to watch this remake. And I gotta be honest, I really like this. It's just a lot of fun. Um, and yet I think also that the serious and emotional bits, they really do hit. It's a really good mix of serious bits versus badass and also funny comedy in terms of like Kenshiro absolutely beating the shit out of people. And I can very clearly see the inspiration for a lot of things in JoJo's here, even though I like JoJo's a lot better. Um Also the 3D CG is not the best I've ever seen, but it's also not the worst. Enjoyable enough to in fact, if anything, the semi campy nature of the CG just makes a lot of the gags with the action even more funny. Um, Next up is Kamina Botan, which I don't remember the full title. I'm not going to read the full uh, Japanese title, but it's this is basically a really good, really juicy romance with lesbian romance about like college girls that get drunk, and it's just very juicy, very good. I love it. Um, Next up is probably my favorite show this season, and that is Witch Hat Atelier. Um, a lot of people have sung endless praise for this. I'd heard a lot of praise about it before I started watching it, and I can reciprocate a lot of that praise because I really, really enjoyed this show. Um, the magic system is just super interesting, and it just becomes even more interesting when a new character is explored because the way that they use magic will inevitably be different, which as a result makes the magic system even more interesting, which just makes it even more genius to me. I love Coco as a main character. She is so charming and uh, full of curiosity and just such a lovable character. Um, my favorite character is I love Orugio. Orugio is really cool, but my favorite character is Keyfree because especially in a story like this, I think that like mentor characters are going to be the best kind of character because of the incredible effect that they have on the main character, and also, in particular with Keyfree, the nuance of like what he actually wants and what he's searching for. Um, is fascinating to me. And I Kiefer is my favorite character because I think he's just a fantastically done mentor character. Um, Also, the animation has just been beautiful. Like my gosh, beautiful. This is definitely a new fantasy IP that I will very much keep an eye out for, um, and continue to watch. And I'm gonna pick up the manga at some point. I don't know, probably not because I have way too much manga to read, but I will definitely continue watching it further seasons of this. Um, Next up is Marriage Toxin, and this was a really fun show where it was like this unique idea of masters and like different people have like different powers which are like a master of a certain thing like an animal or an element like the main character Hikaru Gero is the a poison master and there's like a water master but also like sound master and an insect master. It's just really interesting all the different kinds of masters they have, and also like I just love the whole idea that Haru is just looking to try and get married and settle down with someone. And and just I don't know the whole concept of it is just really charming, and the story has just been really entertaining. I really like the story structure of it. Um, last two we've got here are romance animes. Uh, the next one, the second to last one, is Even a Replica Can Fall in Love. And this is sort of the dramatic romance, if you will. I mean, not counting Botan, which is kind of it's serious and dramatic in its own different juicy way. This was sort of the serious dramatic romance from me this season, and um, it was good. I really liked the idea of like replicas and like the idea that the replica characters can be their own people. And the way that that's explored, I think, I think this was a good show, and I think it explored interesting things with a lot of the different characters, and also had good progression, in my opinion. There were no like love triangles, anything like that. Um, so I quite like this one. But my favorite romance of this season, well, I don't know. This or Botan Better's own romance. I think I like this show better as a romance purely, and that's I Want to End This Love Game. This was sort of my rom-com pick for this season. Uh, it's very similar vibes to Kaguya-sama to me, where it's like the two main characters are playing this game of like trying to confess, which I do think is going to happen next episode. If it doesn't, I mean, that would be a tiny bit disappointing because I feel like it has really been the build up to there. Because, like, in the last episode, they literally kissed multiple times. Like, come on. But, like, at the same time, I think the serious bits with both of these main characters are really good. Um, And I think that they have a great relationship, and the romantic progression thus far in only one season has honestly been fantastic. There have been absolutely no love triangles at all. Uh, I will wait to see if there's still awkwardness after the confession, but so far the build up and progression has been great. I have really enjoyed this show, and I'm looking forward to episode 12 and potentially a season 2 of this. Um but yeah, that was the video. I think is this the longest one I've made? I kind of want to see 39, 31, 33, 43. Oh yeah, this is the longest by far. This 53 minutes, dude. And I said this would be shorter because I didn't have any dropped. I didn't talk about the drops. I didn't have any continuing animes. Holy moly, I'm gonna be so cooked for the summer season, dude. Because uh like I already can think of four shows from this season that are continuing into summer, and there's probably more because there are several shows that just don't have confirmed episode counts for some reason. So but yeah, this season was insanely stacked. Somehow more than the winter season in a way, which is just incredible to me. Uh like I stand by my opinion that 2026 is going to be the best year of anime ever, and I think that the summer and fall seasons will only further confirm that. But for now, I conclude this the longest seasonal anime video thus far. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.